Gracious God, another generation stands ready to cross into the land of promise. We ask your blessing upon their visions of higher education, career opportunities, and of travel to new places. We pause on this threshold to the future and dream not only the blessings to come, but remember the sacrifices, the hard work, and the love that have been given. We offer our thanks for the educators and families who have contributed pieces of themselves to make this night possible for these young men and women. Abide with us now and always, that together we may make a better world, and individually we may know that we are precious in your sight. Amen.
I have never given a commencement speech before. So I asked Dr. Williams for some advice on what to say. And he said, well, Josh, there are 3 things to remember. Make it brilliant, make it witty, and make it short. And I said, Dr. Williams, that's an awful lot to ask. I don't know if I can do that. He said, okay, and just skip the first 2. You may have heard me speak before, I'm not sure. But I'm glad to be here tonight representing the class of 1990 at this commencement to talk to you about the power of one. A number of years ago, a family from London was vacationing in Scotland, and their son was out swimming in one of the many Scottish lakes alone, when suddenly he was seized with a cramp, and he began to drown, and he cried for help. And his cries were heard only by a Scottish farm boy working in a nearby field. And the boy rushed to the lake and jumped in and saved the boy in the lake. After this incident, one boy went back to London, and the other went back to the farm. A couple of years later, the family from the city was back in the country, and they were trying to find the young man who had saved their son's life. And they finally found him and offered him anything at all that he wanted in exchange for saving their son's life. And he admitted that he'd always wanted to go to college, but working on a farm, there was no way he could ever afford it. So the family, being well-to-do, agreed to send him to college. He went on through college and through medical school, became a doctor in the field of medical research. And it was doing that research that he discovered a drug which was to save hundreds of thousands of lives. The drug was penicillin. And for its discovery, Dr. Alexander Fleming won a Nobel Prize. And what had become of the city boy? Well, he too had gone on to success in his occupation. In 1943, found him at the Eastern Front in World War II, at which time he was stricken with the deadly disease pneumonia. His condition worsened, and finally, as a last resort, the wonder drug penicillin that his Scottish friend had discovered was shipped in from England, given to him, and again, he recovered. You see, for the second time, Dr. Alexander Fleming had saved the life of Sir Winston Churchill. Think of the power that we can have as one individual on the rest of the world. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about the power of one and how the power of one is going to lead us to success as we lead Highlands High School if we act as one person, take one step, and venture one risk. Alexander Fleming, in the story I just related to you, was the only person that could save Winston Churchill. He had to act on his own in order to save that life. We've seen many world leaders lately that have demonstrated the principle of how one person can truly make a difference. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who was just in town last weekend, has been able to spread the story about apartheid to the entire world. Now, of course, he does represent a large number of people, but as an individual, he has succeeded in bringing his message to the world. If I were to ask you tonight, graduates, to name one teacher that had influenced you the most in your entire school career, I would guess that most of you could come up with some mental picture or some specific name of a teacher. And if that's the case, then I submit to you that that teacher, that one person, has made a difference in your life. You see, one person makes a difference, and we need to make it our goal to be that person. but acting as one person. Secondly, we have to be willing to take one step. We've seen recently in Eastern Europe many large steps taken. Lithuania, just a few months ago, declared its independence from the Soviet Union. And as a result of Lithuania's one step, we've seen the other two Baltic states, and perhaps soon even other republics, trying to break away from that country. Now, we don't know what's going to become of this situation, but Lithuania's first step, one step, is what started the whole process. A couple of years ago, I was at the Hugh O'Brien Youth Foundation International Leadership Seminar in St. Louis. There were students there from all 50 states and from 22 foreign countries. One of the features of the program was that a student from each of the different countries spoke to us about their experiences in the United States. And one of the last ones to speak was from West Germany, and his name was Jan. Jan obviously had a lot of guilt about his country's role in World War II, because his speech was basically just an apology for the German involvement in the Holocaust. But he finished his speech, and a few minutes later the floor was open for questions. A young man went to the podium, and he said, "My statement is directed to Jan from West Germany. I'm from Connecticut, and I'm a Jew." And there was silence in the room. He crossed his arms and said, "There's no way that I can ever forgive your country for what you did to my people. But I'm glad that today I can shake your hand, not as a Jew shaking hands with a German, but as one human being shaking hands with another human being." And with that, he made his way through the maze of tables and chairs, found his way to Jan. They looked at each other for a moment, and he reached out, and he hugged him. You see, he couldn't bring himself yet to forgive the entire nation of Germany, but he could start by taking one step towards Jan and showing him that he cared. So in acting as one person and taking one step, our formula for success is still not complete. We have to be willing to venture one risk. When Alexander Fleming, as a young boy, swam out into that lake alone into deep water to try to rescue a man he'd never met, he was facing a great risk, wasn't he? Because whenever that situation occurs, there's always the chance, the risk, that both people will die in the attempt. But he was willing to take that risk, and look at the difference it was able to make. Now, sometimes we approach risk in a different direction. A few years ago in eastern Kentucky, there lived a pair of brothers who were without a doubt the meanest, wickedest brothers in the entire county. But unfortunately, they were also the richest men in the county, and so everyone had to put up with them. But finally, one day one of the brothers died, and the remaining brother went to the local minister. Never darkened the door of the church, but he went to the minister and he said, "Preacher, I want you to preach my brother's funeral, and I want you to call him a saint somewhere in your service. And if you'll do that, I'll contribute $5,000 to your church." Well, this was a big decision because the church could always use an extra $5,000. This was in the hills, right? So the preacher made a split-second decision. He decided he would take the risk that he could figure out something honest to say and still call this man a saint. So the day came for the funeral, and the preacher got up to speak, and he said, "Brethren, lying before you today, we have the remains of one of the wickedest, meanest, most low-down scoundrels that's ever walked the face of this county. But compared to his brother sitting in the front row, this man was a saint." You see, sometimes we have to be willing to take the risk to reap the reward. I submit to you that a risk is anything that involves something new, something that could result in failure. I'm sure all of us on stage tonight have had to fill out numerous applications in our high school career, whether for a job or for college or a scholarship. And every time we've done that, there's been the chance that our application won't go through, that we won't get the job, we won't get admitted, the scholarship won't be ours. But so far we've been willing to take that risk. And we can see the results in the colleges that we're going on to and the jobs that we're going to go to after we leave Highlands. I challenge us as we leave tonight to be willing to take one risk. The Apostle Paul, as he was nearing the end of his life, wrote in a letter to Timothy, "I have finished the course." And so we too, by our very presence on stage tonight, announce to the world that we have finished the course. Quite a number of courses, as a matter of fact. But the key now is where we go from here. the children of the 80s. We are the young adults of the 90s, and we will be the leaders of the 21st century. What are we going to do with that large responsibility that looms before us? We have to use the power of one, to act as one person, to take one step, and to venture one risk in meeting our goals. It was Vladimir Horowitz who told us that it's a jungle out there when he said about life, everyone goes to the forest. Some people go for a walk to be inspired, and others go to cut down the trees. Now there always exists the possibility that we will just be cutting down trees when we enter life after tonight. But I am confident that with the education we've received at Highlands, with the background that we have from all these teachers and family and friends that are in the audience tonight, that we will be able to use the power of one to take an inspired walk through the forest of life.
On Sunday evening, when the salutatorian of this class made her remarks, she made reference to the fact that this class has as its motto, the class with no class. However, I think she did a lot of things in her presentation to refute that title. And I believe that it's my opinion that what we heard on Monday or Sunday evening and this evening and the group of young people we have assembled here this evening, this is a class that's got a lot of class. Let's give them a applause. It's a pleasure for me to introduce your commencement speaker this evening. He's Mr. Glenn Sample. Glenn is a native of Cincinnati. He had graduated from Western Hills High School, where he was All-City, All-State, and All-American center and linebacker on the football team. He attended and graduated from the University of Cincinnati, where he was a member and officer of various organizations, including Omicron Delta Kappa, a prestigious leadership fraternity. He attained the rank of lieutenant colonel in the ROTC at the University of Cincinnati. Glenn went through high school, elementary school before that, and college without being absent a single day. He served in the U.S. Army for 2 years, and when he came out, he was a first lieutenant. In 1956, he went to work as an instructor coach for the University of Cincinnati and coached in the areas of football, baseball, and wrestling. In 1986, he became the Assistant Athletic Director at the University of Cincinnati, a position that he currently holds. Since 1980, Glenn has been the official scorer for the Cincinnati Reds. He has received numerous leadership and athletic awards throughout his life. Since 1950, he has been a public speaker with emphasis on positive thinking and what's possible in your life. He and his wife, Evelyn, have 4 children and 4 grandchildren. It's a pleasure for me to present to you, and I ask for you to welcome to Fort Thomas your commencement speaker, Mr. Glenn Sample.
Very much, Dr. Williams. Honored guests, graduates, parents, friends, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here this evening. In fact, you're probably going to find that out because once I get going, I get a little excited. And I didn't know you were going to hear my life story, but my life has been exciting, mainly because I've been involved in a lot of good, clean, wholesome activities that I look forward to each day. and he mentioned that I'm doing the scoring for the Reds now. I might tell you, just to give you an idea, if you're doing something for money, you've got a problem. I'm the official scorer for the Cincinnati Reds games. I've done it for 11 years. You know what the average salary of the boys, the players that I deal with every day down at Riverfront, the average salary is $600,000. You know what I get paid? $60 a game. And I'm the guy that makes up all the statistics that determines their salaries. And they have agents that use the statistics to get the bonuses. And if they get a gold glove, based on the statistics that I give them during the year, they'll get an additional $150,000, not in salary, but that's in addition to their salary. All I can tell you is this: I love what I'm doing. In fact, I would do the Reds games for nothing. It's hard to, don't you tell anybody that. Everybody down there finds that out. I sit next to Marty Brennan and Joe Nuxall. I'm right next to Harry Carey and Steve Stone when they're in the visiting crew. I'm down the manager's dugout before the manager's office before the game or in the dugout. So I'm doing something that I wanted to do, and that to me is the secret of success in life. But to go back, it was over 40 years ago that I took part in a graduation ceremony similar to this, from a high school very similar to this. And when I listen to youngsters like Josh Boyd, I know why Highlands High School is such an outstanding school and why I've heard about it all these years, mainly because of athletics. I mean, I've followed because of athletics, and many of the kids that have come to the University of Cincinnati, and many of the coaches that I know were connected with Highlands. But I knew you also had a good school academically. But I had the same background. I lived in a neighborhood similar to the neighborhood that most of these kids live in. I had parents like you, grandparents. I didn't have the grandparents other than on one side. But I had people that loved me and made it possible for me to get an education. But it wasn't always that way. I was the little guy in our family. I was the third son. And I was born in 1931, right in the middle of the Depression. And I had two older brothers that were born in the 20s. And we didn't live in the nice neighborhood that I was in when I went to high school. We lived 2 blocks from Crosley Field where the Reds used to play. My dad had a small grocery store, and we lived in one room in the back of the store. But in order for me to get the opportunity that my two older brothers didn't have, my older brothers couldn't even go out for high school sports. They had to work all through high school, never had the opportunity that I had. I was the baby, and by the time I came along, my mom and dad were doing a little better. We were able to save enough money, $3,000, to move into a nice neighborhood up by Western Hills High School to give me a chance to do some things in my life. You know what my mom and dad did? My dad, the average salary, you think back of your younger days, the average day of my dad working was 12 to 14 hours. A 78-hour week was a normal week. And they worked in order to make it possible for me to get to where I am today. And I hope the kids here tonight realize how important it is for those of you that made it possible for them to get to this school and to live in the neighborhood that they're living in. Because, most of us have handicaps. You know what my handicap was? I told you I was from a poor neighborhood, and I was a little chubby kid. And I loved athletics. The people that played with the Reds in the old days used to walk by my dad's store. I used to see Ernie Lombardi, who was 6'3", weighed 235 pounds. Frank McCormick, 6'2", 220 pounds. Bucky Walters. All the players for the Reds were big people at that time, and I wanted to be an athlete. All the time of my life, I wanted to be an athlete. And I saw these big fellows working for the Reds and playing golf for the Reds, and that's what I wanted to do. And of course, what happened, God made me a little chubby kid from a poor neighborhood. And you know what? What else happened to me? I looked like a guy by the name of Mickey Rooney, who was a movie star, who was 5'2", weighed about 125 pounds, and played the part of a judge's son in the old movie. I didn't want to be that. So what a lot of us do because we have handicaps. And the other kids that I grew up with, you know what their handicaps were? They were too tall. They were too thin. A lot of them, their parents were not educated. And you know that the biggest handicap of all the kids that I grew up with was the fact that many of their parents were immigrants, couldn't even speak the English language, and they were ashamed to bring you home to introduce you to the parents. So what a lot of us do, and maybe you have a handicap, I think everybody has a handicap in their mind. Sometimes you don't think that you're going to be successful. So you pick up a paper and you read about Gorbachev or Bush or Eric Davis or some of the great people and great things that are happening in the Kentucky Enquirer, and you think, gosh, am I ever going to make it? And of course, if you turn on television, you'll see Brooke Shields or Farrah Fawcett or Robert Urich or Tom Selleck on television. They're trying to sell you something. And you know what's wrong with this system? We always want to be somebody else because we have a handicap. You know, we want to be somebody else. None of us look like Farrah Fawcett or Tom Selleck. What you got to do in life is take what you have and do the best that you can with what you have. And what amounts to is this. If you look in the paper and you read about all these stars, you're going to find that there are a lot of stars in this paper. They're all stars. The thing you got to realize is this. You got to look at their backgrounds and see where they came from and see how they got to where they are today. And the way this works, God's got an all-star team, and all of us are on it. And the sooner you find out that you're on it, nothing will stop you the rest of your life. And what it amounts to is this. Once you find out that you're going to be a star just like anybody else, and you've got a special talent, and what your special talent is, I don't know. Each of you have a special talent. I used to think my special talent was sports, because that's basically all I've done all my life. But as I got older, I knew what my special talent was enthusiasm for life. I'm this way all the time. I get up in the morning, and I can't wait to get to someplace. And I have trouble going to bed at night because I'm worried about getting up early enough to get to work the next day to do some things I want to do. So what you do in the morning, the way God's got this thing set up, when you pick up the paper, you're supposed to see yourself in here. Not me, not President Bush or George Gorbachev or anybody else. You're supposed to see yourself in here. And once you realize that you're a star, nothing can stop you. And the reason I realized that possibly I could be a star, my mother kept telling me that I could do anything I wanted in my life. And then when we moved to Price Hill, and I had an opportunity to go to a great school, and I met a lot of great teachers and a crowd of great people, I knew what was possible. And you know what some of those teachers did? We had some teachers that really took it serious. I went there to play sports, I thought, at first, and I didn't have any trouble in school. You know, some of the teachers, I was involved in everything. I was in student government. I was in so many activities, football, basketball, baseball, you name it. I couldn't wait to get there. But you know what some of those teachers did? This was one of my textbooks. We used to cover them in the old days. I know Fred can remember this. We used to cover the textbooks. We had to pay a nickel if they were damaged at the end of the year. And some of the teachers gave us night work. You had teachers like that over here that actually thought enough of you. I mean, they didn't like you at all, so they made you do homework. So, you know, I was too busy. I used to take my books home and I'd put them down on the desk because I had other things to do. So this is what my books looked like when I first started out. I'd like to see some of the graduates who see that. Some of you might have had some books like this earlier, and if you notice, that textbook was blank. But most of us are pretty shrewd. You know, when a history teacher told me to read chapter 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, I would read chapter 5. I had a little knowledge, or I'd ask some of the people who were in the class, hey, did you get a chance to cover that material last night? Because I was busy. So some of my books and some of my studies, you know, looked like this. It was the same book, same class, same person, and I had a little bit of knowledge and I was doing pretty good. But what happened to me, I found out as I got to be a freshman and a sophomore in high school, the coaches and the teachers started telling me, Glenn, you have some talent and you could get a college football or baseball scholarship. I would be the first person in the history of my family to ever get a chance for a college education. So I started to pay the price. And you know, I was paying the price in sports. If that coach told me I couldn't turn a double play, I was out there 2 hours before the game started working on a double play. If I couldn't hit the curveball, I'd get somebody to throw the curveball to me before the game started to make sure that I could hit that curveball. I was willing to pay the price, but not in the academic part. Until I found out that I could go to college, and I found out if I read chapter 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then when I went to the library and I knew more about that subject than everybody else, you know what happened to my life? I was just a sophomore. And I'm telling you, I used to get excited about sports, but not only did I get excited about sports, I got excited about life. And what happened to me, of course, I was out of high school before you knew it. I'm at the University of Cincinnati, and I was going to be a professional baseball player, professional football player. I had pro offers in both sports. As soon as I graduated, I was going to sign. But you know what happened? The Korean War came along, changed my goals, changed my outlook on life. The problem in your life is not the problem, it's how you handle the problem. It's the problem. And how did I handle that problem? soon as I got out of the service, I had an opportunity to sign a pro contract, or I could start working at the University of Cincinnati as a 23-year-old coach. And I thought, gosh, I'm married, I had one child, and I think I would love to be a teacher and a coach. So, of course, when I was 23, I thought 30 was old, and I was going to be a great football coach. And when I was 30, I thought 40 was old. Then when I was 40, I thought 50 was old. Then when I was 50, I thought 60 was old. And now I'm 1 year away from 60. It's surprising how your ideas and your thoughts change in your life. You know what I think old is now? 120. And I think Fred and some of the people that are my age feel the same way. I mean, life goes by so quickly. I mean, it seems like yesterday that I was sitting on the stage at Music Hall over in Cincinnati, just like the students are here tonight at my graduation. And I'm telling you, in your life, every second, every minute, every hour, every week, every year is so important. And a lot of people just don't live their life that way. You know, what they do with their lives, they're so unhappy, they're so negative with everything that they do. Let me give you an example of being positive in your life. I want you to take the day here at Highlands High School when it was the most miserable day of your life. You had 3 or 4 tests, or maybe you had a double practice in volleyball or soccer or football or whatever it might be. You had a lot of other problems. Maybe you had a fight with one of your friends. You were miserable. You went home. And the people out there, you do the same thing. And one day in your life, you were ready to give it up. You went home, you sit down in a chair, and you think, I'll never get out of this chair. It's going to take 2 days to recuperate. And what happens? The telephone rings, and that girl that you really like wants you to go to the prom. Or you got the job that you didn't think you were going to get. Or back in the old days, I remember when that phone rang and my mother found out my brother was safe and made it through World War II and was coming home, and we were going to meet him down at the Union Terminal. Man, I'm telling you, when something great happens to you, you get up out of that chair, you go in and you take a shower, and you're out till 2 o'clock in the morning. So you are what you think you are. You can do what you think you can do if you're willing to pay the price in your life. And the average person that I've run into is not willing to pay the price. They always want to take the easy way out. Now, there's a lot of ways to go in life. And one, of course, is to make a life that's going to be enjoyable. And let me show you this. This is the Kentucky Post. I don't think you're having any trouble hearing me now, but this is your life. I'm going to show you your life, the people that are out in the audience and the people that are graduating. Instead of the Kentucky Post, I want you to put your name up there. And the pictures in this paper will illustrate the great things that you've done so far in your life, the highlights of your life. The highlights of the people that are in the audience. You put your name out there. And I'll tell you, the colored pictures are the big days, like your graduation, or when you get married, when you have your first grandchild, or whatever it might be. And the routine days, when you look through here, there's a lot of routine days. Can you see the pictures? I know it's kind of a poor setup to show this picture. See the paper? There's a lot of pictures in here. You had lots of pretty good days. Maybe you were 2 for 4 in a baseball game, or had a pretty good volleyball game, and your life is going along pretty good. And of course, what happens to most of us in our lives? We're doing pretty good. But this is what happens to us in our lives. We start to make a few mistakes along the way. And when I think in my own life, how positive I was, mainly because my mother told me what was possible in my life, and eventually I started to believe her. But I still lied a little bit. Occasionally I told a little white lie. You know, my mom and dad didn't even know when I was telling some of those little white lies that I told. And there were a few times that maybe I didn't work as hard as I should have with some of my classes, and I kind of took it easy, and things weren't, as good as maybe they should have been. And there were times when I had some problems with my friends and my teachers. I gave them a rough time. And the people that I really gave the roughest time to were my parents. I actually treated them like enemies occasionally if things were going tough. And all of us will do this in our lives. And look at this life. Look at that life. Sometimes it's in pieces. And of course, what happens, I told you that my life has gone by so fast, and here I'm almost 60 years old, and someday I'm going to have a judgment day. And I'm going up and I'm going to talk to God. And let me tell you the questions that the average person that I talk to thinks that God will ask them when they go up to find out what's going to happen on judgment day. The first question people think they're going to be asked, hey, how much money did you make down there in Fort Thomas? And how big
have to take the special talents that we have. You know what happens if you take the special talents that you have, God gave each and every one of us, and you work on it, what happens in your life? You're going to have so many material things, you're going to have so much, you're going to have a lot left over. And all he wants you to do is take some of the stuff that you have left over, because you've had a lot of opportunities that other people haven't had, and do the best, you know, if you want to do the best that they can, also you want to help them a little bit. And then God's going to say, hey, how did you treat those other people down there? Did you do unto them as you like people to do to you? I mean, how did you treat them? Were they pretty good people? And once you get your priorities straight in life, and you find out that you put God first in your life and other people second and yourself third, you know what happens to your life? Look at your life. Now here's your life with your name on it. Because you are special, and all you have to do in your life is to put a song in your heart and a smile on your face. You can change the whole human race. You know, a lot of us always want to be somebody else. And what I found out in coaching, to wrap this up, you know, when I first started to coach, even when I was playing, and I was this chubby little kid at Western Hills High School, I used to see these big kids that I played against, and I used to judge people by what they looked like. But once the game started, I found out it doesn't make any difference what you look like on the outside. It makes the difference what you got on the inside. And once you find out that you've got it on the inside, size is no factor. Where you came from isn't a factor. If you want to do something, you can do it. And to give you an example of that, do you think Mother Teresa is going to win any beauty contest? And look what she has done with her life. Look what Lech Walesa, an electrician, did over in Poland. Little things mean a lot in our lives, and each of us can make a difference. As Josh said, I'm telling you, the people on this stage can make a difference in the world, and they're the people that we're counting on, because a lot of us are going up and going to take that test. And all I know is I'm looking forward to passing it. So I wish each and every one of you a great deal of success. Thank you.
Gold Honor Pin is awarded to students who have been on the Honor Super Honor Roll for 8 consecutive semesters. The following seniors will receive the Gold Honor Pin. Please hold your applause until all have risen. Melissa Alessandro. Chris Arlinghouse. Karen Bateson. Josh Boyd. William C. Bronze. Steve Combs. Shannon Davis. Shane Doherty. Kim Brow. Rebecca Evans. Michael Scott Gaines. David Gardella. Ray Gertie. Michelle Gill. Michelle Harris. Brett Johnson. Jeff Labor. Angela Louse. Eddie Meyer. Audrey Munch. Carla Patton. Clifford Perkins. Jason Poole. Rebecca Riley. Tammy Schlarman. Rebecca Schisler. Anna Scope. These are our Gold Honor Pins.
Class of 1990 dubbed themselves the class with no class. If you've kept up with this class, you'll learn quite the contrary is true. State championships, national championships, regional championships, high academic standards. It's truly been an outstanding academic and athletic class. They have excelled in what they have tried to do, and they have done a good job. Board members, Dr. Williams, guests, teachers, parents, relatives, and friends, as principal of Highlands High School, I certify that these students about to receive their diplomas have met the state and Board of Education requirements for graduation. Let's award diplomas.
Joshua Epson Boyd. Kimberly Sue Heinem Drow. Barbara Lynn Walmer. Heather Suzanne Joyce Hamilton. Audrey Denise Munch. Jennifer Christine Beaver. Shelley Ray Taylor. Susan Lee Reedmatter. Jody Ann Finishin. Rebecca Lynn Riley. Karen Lee Bateson. Carla Elaine Weber. Suzanne Gosman. Jacqueline Allison McMath. Carlina Marie Hatton. Marcy Renee Philippi. Rebecca Field McGraw. Angela Marie Neifert. Tammy K. Schlarman. Tracy Lynn Peggy. Shannon Michelle Davis. Michelle Lee Harmon. Amy Lynn Zenny. Brett Daniel Johnson. Douglas Frederick Bryant. Brian Todd Razor. David Matthew Bardella. Brian Scott Weinrich. Walter Christian Hack. Jessica Langmeyer. Lisa Ferris Hatton. Erica Lee Fangman. Rebecca Jean Schisler. Kristen M. Willett. Alisa Lynn Grubbs. Dawn Renee Shanowski. Cynthia Lynn Gregory. Kimberly Denise Moreland. Julia Ellen Hicks. Amy Elizabeth Nagy. Kate Johns. Catherine Menifee Ellison. Anna Renee Stroke. Allison Ann Foyle. Loretta Lynn Smith. Angela Lee Celia. Abigail Lauren Paul. Jeffrey Jacob Walls. Michael John Carwell II. Clark A. Richter. Stephen Eric Simmons. Brian Stanley Egan. Jason Christopher Poole. Guy Shannon Trailer. Peter Joseph Ball. Sean Patrick Maloney. Andrew John Garon. Robert Alexander Ruddick. Philip Kent Bottom. Joseph Robert Reinhardt. Robert Crosby Taylor. Stephen Donald Combs. Brian R. Sills. Jeffrey Allen Hood. Mark Hay. Sean Peter Donovan. Christopher John Arlinghouse. John R. Palmer. Gregory Scott Coles. William Christopher Bronze. Gregory William Roller. Jason J. Arthur. Thomas Edwin Roberts, Jr. Shane Andrew Garden. Tyler Barrett Steinhauser. James Boone. Ryan D. Walsh. Scott Carl Knauer. Louis Lee Clapp. Mark Thomas Hatton. Raymond Joseph Gurdon. John Michael Vernon Wright. John David Williams. Jeffrey William Labor. Brian Michael Feldman. Stanley Chip Phillips III. Matthew C. Zins. Christopher Martin McKim. Stephen Scott Haas. Michael Scott Gaines. Anthony James Nichols. Frederick Allen Rush. Scott Anthony Worley. Robert Michael Schuster. Russell Anthony Osegi. Patrick Thomas Derrick. Edward John Meyer. Stephen Charles Hunt. Sean Anthony Caruso. Brent Allen Smith. Scott Wayne Donnelly. David Clark Golden. John Paul Vincent. Matthew James Hawkins. Michael H. Choi. David Carl Frank. John James K. the Fourth. Christopher Dale Martin. Kathy Lynn Hammerschleckner. Sherry I. Parton. Dina Ray Handy. Jennifer Ellen Norm. Sandra Kelly Howard. Dawn A. Strickmeyer. Sally Ann Edwards. Christy Renee Howe. Rebecca Cole Thompson. Mary Beth Neewaner. Shannon Gale Wells. Krista Lynn Wilson. Melissa Dawn Alessandro. Kathy Lisa Maria Cahorn. Rebecca Elizabeth Evans. Stephanie Allison Wright. Mary Lyons Person. Deborah Lee Hilton. Tiffany Lynn Blau. James Ron Allred. John Howard Ransom. Kevin Keith Shippers. Andy Jack Vanderpool. William D. Miller IV. James M. Kaywood. Donovan David Hornsby. Andrew Owen Paul. Robert Lee Woods. Julie Michelle Skip. Beth Borchers. Tanya Shea Marshall. Michelle Lee Harris. Christina Lynn Hamby. Margaret Elizabeth Mosser. Kelly Jean Strayman. Michelle Ann Gill. Robin Rochelle Hartke. Angela Marie Laus. Jody Marie Hoffman. Jennifer Lynn Cole. Melinda Kathleen Curry. Tanya Jean Jubenville. Stacy Lynn Malone. Holly Jo Schulte. Melissa G. Perker. Catherine Lynn Phillips. Clifford Bernard Perkins III. Scott Thomas Harvey. Anthony Joseph Fornash. Kevin Douglas Clark. Christopher Lee Wolf. I present to you the class of 1990.
My pleasure to be with you this evening to award 5 Commonwealth diplomas. For the past 5 years, I've had the opportunity and real pleasure to award many of these diplomas since this program was initiated 5 years ago. First year, we had approximately 175 diplomas awarded in some 70 school districts. This year we have over 700 diplomas awarded. So you can see that the program that these fine young people have agreed to take is paying dividends. These are their future leaders. They've agreed to participate in the curriculum that gives them additional credits. They've all earned at least 20 credits. Many of them have earned in excess of that, and they're credits that can be counted in their college work. So, now my pleasure to award these 5 diplomas to the members of this class. All 3 of whom I know by the program have received not only their gold honor pin, but are also members of the National Honor Society. So we all have just reason to be mighty proud of these people. And as I call their names, they'll come up individually. I'd like to present them with their diploma. I know the first one is Josh Boyd. Right? John Arlinghouse. Because his name is on there right there. Congratulations, Steve. And last but not least, Shannon Wells. Thank you very much. Let's give them all a hand.
Would like for you to please stand and join us in the singing of the Highlands High School alma mater.
Now, O Lord, we go forth from this place to pursue separate goals and dreams, but equipped with the memories of friendship and love and community which we take into the larger world community. Grant that we should never be so disappointed in human beings that we lose hope. Give these young people the strength of conviction that they may stand alone, but also that they may prove character. Most of all, give us the common sense to celebrate and enjoy life each and every day that we live. These things we pray in your name. Amen.